Zoltan.
Hey, Dan.
Hi, Zoltan. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Excellent. I'm sitting in for Julia.
Oh, good.
She's down
Okay.
in Florida.
Really?
Yeah, she's visiting her mom.
How's their mom doing?
Hi. Better. She's supposed to come home Friday.
Good. That's good.
Okay.
Were you out at lunch today, Dan? I didn't see you.
No, as a matter of fact, we had a few other things. We came downtown, got lunch, and then we've got some things going on here at the house, so we came back.
Gotcha.
But tomorrow, I'm speculating that we might be there.
Oh yeah, is it supposed to be nice? Today ended up being a lot warmer than I think it was supposed to be.
Yeah, and they were also threatening rain.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, I have my umbrella with me and it's blue
yeah,
sky.
never showed up.
No. Let's see. Oh yeah, tomorrow is supposed to be beautiful.
Yes.
Great.
Yep.
Well, that's very nice. Okay.
Michelle, just FYI, I mean, I'm here, but I've had a little situation. I had to get Kevin down here. I may jump off for a minute, just so you know.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, that's fine. Do you expect to have to leave? I can always adjust, move the items on the agenda around.
I do for a minute. I just don't know when. So we'll play it by ear. It shouldn't
That's
be-
fine. That's fine. We'll sort it out. All right. I'm glad people are finding us. Hello, Michael.
No, I'm gonna have to get off at 4.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. Hopefully we will have conducted most of our business by then. I'm hoping Fran or Lisa come. This was the time we chose for them.
I just saw Fran, so I know she's alive and awake.
Okay, that's good. That's good. I did not hear actually either way from them, but they knew that we had chosen this time. So hopefully they'll make. I have questions for them as well.
I see Chris Charles and Irene are here. And the only reason I mention is I just wanted to let them know that the recorded Board of Selectmen's meeting should now be on the website. John had some difficulty, but it should be there now.
Thanks a lot, Jim. Appreciate that.
Oh, good. And here's Fran. Excellent. Oh, Wayne too. Wayne's presenting today. Hopefully he finds out his way here soon. Let's see, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, there's Wayne. All right. We'll get started in just a minute. And Lisa, fantastic. I did hear from Phil, Margaret, who was going to try to log on. He's still down in Florida, he says, recovering from a knee surgery. So we wish him a speedy recovery.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, we definitely have a quorum. It's 3:01, and since some people have to get moving along, let's go ahead and get started. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of May 18th?
So moved.
Second.
Dan and Jim moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments? Corrections? No? All right, not hearing any. Motion to approve? Okay, all right. We have approved the minutes. Before I go on to talking about anything else, I wanted to just quick talk about meeting time and whether we as a committee want to start meeting in person or not. Meeting in a hybrid fashion is now possible. We tried it out with the Sustainability Committee last week and it worked pretty well. So we have the option of coming in and meeting in person, but allowing people to Zoom in, or we can continue to meet by Zoom. What are people's preferences?
I'm fine either one. I don't have to travel, whatever it is, so.
I know you and I are here, so. All right.
My preference would clearly be a combination.
Combination. Okay, combination. I think that is probably the best, to at least have a combination. I know for any of the people who are currently, any of our businesses, anytime we choose during the day is going to be a challenge. So for Fran or Lisa or any other member that they find to attend meeting in person might be a challenge. So I would want to give them the Zoom option regardless. How about time? We chose 3 o'clock because the mornings are a challenge for Fran and Lisa. Does 3 o'clock seem fine for everyone here? Do we like this time?
I'm fine with it.
Okay, doesn't matter. All right. Well, so feel free to email me, but for now we'll maybe plan on our next meeting being a hybrid meeting at 3 o'clock. All right, and I'll send the particulars. That way we can actually have physical paper in hand. So, all right. I'm going to do just a very brief report on some of the activities that I've been working on. And if you have questions or want me to elaborate on anything, please do so. But I want to make sure we get on to the other things on the agenda. Most of you have been watching the affordable housing process move along. We had another housing forum, and we are looking to complete the draft of the affordable housing plan to present in a combination meeting at some point in September, probably with planning and zoning. So I'll keep you posted on that. I also wanted to let everyone know that I've spent the last couple of weeks working on the CDBG grant paperwork, which is due this Friday, which is a large grant, close to $900,000, almost $1 million, for work on the Dodge Farm affordable housing place that is run by the Housing Trust. And there was a public meeting about that, and we're going to have a town meeting probably next week to approve make the final approval of the transfer of money for the environmental studies for that grant. So if anyone has questions, please feel free to ask about that. For Sustainable CT, I'm just going to mention that we are on track to get certified. We're doing our paperwork for the August deadline, and we are hopeful. We feel pretty confident that we're in good shape. So that is really, really exciting. There are only 2 other towns in the northwest corner that have, at this point in time, I'm aware of, that have completed the certification. So that's encouraging. For sidewalks, I just would say that in New Preston, we are going to bid on the phase 1 portion of the project, and the businesses are very excited about that. So that's great. I'll just mention also, since I was over in New Preston last week, the paving of the New Preston, the business section of 45 is completed. The state was wonderful. They did that portion of the road first, and they did it early in the morning so that it would not interfere with the businesses. They did both sides before they continued all the way up to Warren just to get out of their hair. So, and it was greatly appreciated by the businesses. I've received a couple emails already. So that is moving right along. For the project in the depot, the Titus area that we were looking at, the bid was formally accepted by the selectmen at their last meeting. Dan had asked a couple questions about that, and I would just say that the request for proposal is to take a look at the entire Titus block area and do a traffic study, and the surveys are almost complete. And so what we're going to have the engineering firm do is meet with the businesses, do a parking study also to just see what's available and what is recommended for parking for the number of businesses that we have in that area. And I've already spoken with a lot of the businesses in that area about what will be happening, and we will meet with everyone. We'll have a public meeting to get some ideas, to sort of brainstorm solutions for some of the flow issues, for improving parking, and obviously the sidewalks. If anyone's walked over there, you realize that some of the sidewalks dead end. The one in front of Marty's does not have a ramp down to the road. Some of them don't connect or are in poor shape or not ADA compliant. So it's to just look at the flow of that whole block area. And hopefully we will get started on that in the next couple of weeks, time permitting. Are there any questions about that project? No. All right. Continuing with the new homeowners mailing, we had 11 home sales in May, which was an uptick from April. So that's continuing to be very busy. I just wanted to mention for farm, there's been a lot of conversation lately about our farms. It's come up in our sustainable committee, it's come up at planning, it's come up at zoning. And so here I am bringing it to economic development as well. We just want to make sure we're supporting our farms. We want to make sure that they have the resources that are needed and that we as a town are doing what we can. It's interesting how many different places what we do as a town intersects with supporting our farms, whether it's the farmers market or signage or zoning. Agritourism is becoming a very hot topic in the entire state, looking at uses other than just having a farm or a farm stand, whether that's a farm dinner, whether that's hosting a wedding. It can take a lot of different forms. So I will keep you posted as we move forward with that. But planning discussed that the other day, recognizing that the farms are something that we really want to make sure we take a good look at in the next POCD. Wayne, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that conversation.
Oh, yes, we will. We're actually in a good advantage as a town in terms of farming in one respect, which is that farming is a by right activity in over 98% of the town already. So, you know, the idea, you know, there are some things that communities are looking at that it would be rather superfluous for us, like like a right to farm ordinance, but basically you already have a right to farm in Washington. So there's really no need for those sorts of things. Like most things in our town, the biggest obstacle to farming is affordability. It's, we don't really, on paper, the number of farms we have seems impressive, but the number of actual working farms is actually very small. So, and again, that's, we will be addressing that more as we start working on the next POCD, but, anybody wanting to engage in a new farming venture, obviously the most expensive element is the land, and Washington's one of the most expensive places around to buy or rent land. So that's that's sort of an immovable object. So we'll just see where we get.
Yep, great, thanks. One last comment that I thought was very interesting. I was talking with someone who has a fair amount of what would be considered just open space farm. It's fields that are hayed once or twice a year. And he just mentioned it's been really hard to find anybody to hay those fields. They've tried a couple of local people and they're busy. And that's something that we value in our town, these open fields. So maybe once we get the farmer community sort of up and running and conversation, we'll be able to help facilitate some of that and sort of collaborate between the farms, because there are becoming fewer and fewer. So thanks, Wayne.
Sure. I wouldn't get too upset about people with hay fields not being able to find someone to hay their fields, because in many cases, the only reason they're haying the field is so they can get a 490 exemption. That doesn't really make them a farmer any more than I'm a farmer because I have a vegetable garden in my backyard. But
True.
Except that I can't claim the deduction and they can. So anyway, for somebody who's haying their land twice a year on their $1 million review to get a tax exemption, I'm not feeling their pain. I'm sorry.
I hear you, Wayne. Although if we had all of that returned back to forest land, that's not exactly ideal. I know I've heard conversations with Steep Rock and conservation, that having some of that field space is also important, but I will let them sort that out.
Michelle, can I ask Wayne a question? It's Mike.
Sure, go ahead.
Have we ever looked at subsidizing people who want to rent farmland?
You're kind of breaking up on me there, Mike, but I'm thinking, I think your question was, do we have any program for subsidizing?
Yeah, have we ever looked at it?
No, we don't. I'm not sure the state has much of a program either. It's very complicated in that, there are also properties in town that are preserved as open space that could actually be used as farmland as whatever. Having a conservation easement on a piece of farmland doesn't mean it can't be farmed, but depending on the property owner and depending on the situation, they may, it may have been a stipulation that they don't want it farmed. So it's, you have to really look at them on a case-by-case basis. And trying to match a potential farmer with a potential piece of land is really beyond the expertise and the pay grade of the Planning Commission.
It's interesting though, Michael, I wrote that down. It's an interesting thought because I kind of wonder, as we try to have the farms, if we create a farmers forum of some sort, there might be ways to have people who are looking for farmland hook up with people who have open space and they need someone.
Yeah,
or they'd be willing to have somebody come in and farm. So
the way that problem is solved in other industries.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but that's an interesting idea. Thank you. Moving on. We've had a very interesting development toward, and I put bike path and I put path in parentheses or in quotations because I want to be careful talking about bike paths. I don't want people to think that we're talking about building designated lanes, but it's something that Dan and the Economic Development Committee have been talking about for a while, especially with the Booth Park and having a sort of a place to start. And there's been Kathy Bennett in town came and met with Jim and myself about really creating sort of a bike-friendly tour through town, marking it, using signage, paint, whatever available. We have to learn more about the regulations, but what's really interesting is the Lake Warramug Association has also been working on the very same project around the lake. And so we are going to get together with some people from the Department of Transportation and just sort of figure out how to try to create some signage to create a safer bike path with a map and everything through town. So it's an idea in development. We have more to learn, but I think it's exciting. We know that people come here to bike. It came up at a selectmen's meeting, also making sure that we are promoting bike safety and making sure that people are aware of what the rules are about bikers and cars. And as we head into summer, we're going to see more. So we're going to also kind of think about a campaign of bike awareness and safety. So that's an exciting thing that's happening at the moment. If anyone wants to ask more about that, any questions? I also just wanted to let everyone know that the business districts have been a discussion at the zoning commission. And I plan to attend their next meeting. I unfortunately missed the last one because I was on the road, but the zoning commission has taken up looking at the business districts in response to something that the planning commission had asked them to look at, but then they sort of expanded that beyond the request from planning in a way that I think it would affect the business districts in a more restrictive way, which I don't think was necessarily their intent, and I don't think is good for the business districts. So I just wanted everyone to be aware that zoning is taking a look at the business districts. And if you have any specific questions, Wayne, he's got his hand. I was going to say, Wayne, do you want to talk more about that?
Yeah, I can. I've been in discussions with Janet Hill on this, and
Good.
The language that they are working on right now was actually well intended. That she did a lot of her work based on a document, a 3-page memo that she thought came from the Planning Commission, but didn't come from the Planning Commission. In fact, I don't know where the document she was using as a reference came from, but it didn't come from us. And so I think that they may have been misled on what the Planning Commission wanted to see done in the business districts. Essentially, what we wanted to do, the Zoning Commission has the ability right now to, it basically involves what we call split lots. Lots in the business district that are actually divided. Part of the lot lies in the business district and part of the lot lies in a residential district. And normally in that case, the more restrictive district, their rules apply to that property, which of course usually means the residential district because they're more restrictive on what kind of uses they allow. In Marbledale and recently in New Preston, the zoning commission is able, under the special permit process on a case-by-case basis, to look at a property and allow a property to be used as a business, even if part of it lies in the residential district. They've had the ability to do that in Marbledale for 20 years. And they recently allowed to do it in New Preston about 3 years ago, and the Planning Commission signed off on that. What the Planning Commission asked over a year ago was that basically we thought that the zoning commission should have the ability to do in the depot and in Woodville what they're already allowed to do in Marbledale and New Preston. That's all we wanted. And what happened was pages of new proposed regulations that tried to make all the language identical, which we never really asked for. It's just become, I think it's become sort of a solution in search of a problem. And I've offered to appear before the zoning commission at their next meeting and just kind of clarify what it was that the planning commission wanted, which was nowhere near the extent of what they're proposing. We just wanted a simple 2 lines of text inserted in the regulations, literally 2 lines. That's all we wanted. And now we're facing 3 pages. So we'll see. I'm hopeful I can convince folks that less is more. And that's kind of where we are at this point. But there's no hard feelings here. I think that their efforts were very well intended. They were just working on information that they thought was from us that really wasn't from us. I don't know where it was from, but didn't come from planning.
Thanks, Wayne. I think what's interesting about the conversation, it got me thinking, and I want the EDC to be thinking about our business districts and the way they're zoned and whether that is still serving us the way we want it to. I don't hear very often about bumping up against zoning, occasionally on some lot coverage. Usually it's parking and signage that are things that are a challenge to the business districts or the businesses within the districts. But I haven't had anyone, coming to me saying they think we should expand them or that they're too restrictive in any specific way. But it's interesting that now zoning is looking at them. I think we should think about that. And if anyone has heard of something that they think is a challenge or that doesn't address the needs of our business community, now is a good time to sort of think about it because it's on the table. And we're also going into another plan of conservation and development. So just thinking forward and about future needs is something we should all have on our minds. So if anything comes to mind or if you hear of something, please let me know. And I'll keep you posted on that conversation. The only other thing I was going to mention is that the newsletter went out the first week of June. We got some really great feedback, and everything went pretty smoothly. Kathy, who does the layout for us, and I are going to work on some documents to give people some guidelines. We're starting to get some submissions that are really lengthy and require a lot of editing. So people have changed positions. We have new people submitting things. So we're just going to try to tighten that up a little bit to make it easier for everybody so they know what to submit and it'll make the layout process easier. Does anyone have any questions about any of that newsletter?
Michelle,
Yeah.
did you touch on the townhouse services brochure or the new homeowners mailing? I know you said that the home ownership was the sales were up, but did you say anything about those other 2 things?
You know what? I skipped over the brochure. It's finished and ready to go for when the WBA welcome bag is ready to go. And I don't know. Hopefully Lisa or Frank can give us an update on that. So I actually didn't have anything new to report. Did you have a question?
No, I just wondered where it was.
Yeah, we spoke about it last time. I think I just forgot to take it off there. It's completed and ready to go. We're looking at, I looked out in front of town hall for a good place to put, I was thinking about our passport that we have, as well as the brochure for people who are visiting town. This brings us back to the kiosk question, which I know we're all in support of, and maybe I need to just, maybe our next meetings, we should just focus on really thinking about where would be a good place and looking at different options. I had people suggest doing an electronic kiosk. I had some just regular old bulletin board type with brochure type, maybe we do a hybrid. There's money budgeted in this upcoming fiscal year for it. So we'll continue to think about that. And the brochures made me think of it because there's nowhere a good place here to put them. So, all right, no other questions? All right, if you have any questions about any of that stuff, please just feel free to email or give me a call. For new business highlights, I'm pretty sure I mentioned Lewis CT and the new business in New Preston. They opened a couple weekends ago, and things seem to be going well with them. I went and introduced myself. The only other thing I wanted to point out, it was just on Friday when I was in New Preston, Joanna Seitz mentioned, she asked if I had walked through the building. It's Fairbairn Brothers are renovating the house in New Preston. I think it was the Pickett House. That's correct. It has the barns, if you just sort of beyond Plain Goods up there. But she encouraged me to go walk through it. It is intended, she thinks, for commercial use. And I did walk up there, and it is stunning. I mean, it's probably not even half completed, but it's a large building, and I'm going to reach out and see what their intention is, or to see if they have somebody moving into it. But if anybody hears, please let me know, because it looks like quite a new addition to the new
building. Which building is that?
So if you're going through the New Preston shops and you turn left on, is that church right there, right in front of New Plain Goods? On the right-hand side, just on the other side of the stream where the barns are and that house.
Yeah.
It's being renovated. The town had asked about that property at one point, because we know we need some parking. Anyway, I don't know what exactly is going to go in there, but it's
that's up New Preston Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Okay.
Yep, it's just the very next prize, the very first one, right on the little stream there, the brook that feeds in. So yeah, it's quite a space. So whatever it is will be quite an addition. Wayne?
And by the way, that is the property in New Preston that prompted the zoning commission to apply the regulations that were in place in Marbledale to allow on a case-by-case basis properties that are split to be used for business, because that property actually lies in two zones. The back part of it actually lies in the residential district, and so you know, basically what we want, all the planning commission wants, is for the zoning commission to do for that property on a case-by-case basis what they might be able to do for properties in the Depot and Woodville. That's what we've been asking for.
Yeah, because the back part was a residential house, but up front were the barns that were being used commercially. And now it appears that the entire thing is going to be a commercial space. I haven't confirmed that, but that's what Joanna said she heard when I walked through. It looked like that. And it is going to be quite a large space. So I will keep you posted on that. All right, Wayne, you're up. The next thing we wanted to talk about is broadband, bringing fiber to the households. There's been a lot of discussion and new development. So I'm going to just let Wayne let us know about that.
Okay, well, now here's the Debbie Downer moment of the meeting, because all the good news we've had about goings on in town, the goings on at the state legislature could only be described as a catastrophe. As some of you may know, as chair of Northwest Connect, I have been lobbying for months for the state to pass broadband legislation that would allow for us to make enabling fiber to the home networks in our towns in the Northwest Hills easier to achieve. There was a governor's bill that had, language that would have really helped our community out a lot. And at the very last minute, the entire bill was scrapped, and 8 pages of language that nobody had ever seen before was put in its place. And it was passed by both houses in the middle of the night without any debate, without any, it was just, and we got really nothing out of it. The cable industry got some nice things out of it. It's one of those classic swappity-doo middle of the night things that happens in Hartford at the end of the legislative session. For those who want to know the details, you can email me separately. I won't bore you with those, but at the end of the day, we got nothing, and basically the northwest corner of the state was thrown under the bus.
Wayne, can you give us just sort of the top highlight thing, like what were we looking for in that bill that we're now missing that is going to make moving forward more challenging?
Well, the most important thing we were looking for was a provision called One Touch Make Ready. If we're going to be building out fiber networks in our towns, one of the logistical problems, it's very expensive, is that anytime anybody wants to hang a new cable on a pole, you have to apply to the owners of the pole, which is usually Eversource, and they come out and they examine all the poles in your town, and any of them that are in bad shape, they replace, and they actually look at them to make sure that, one, the pole can handle another line, two, there's space on the pole for another line, and three, if there are poles where it's crowded or not installed properly, whatever, they say, okay, this pole needs to have some of the other lines moved around to make room for your new line. That process is called Make Ready. And in most states around the country, what happens is that as long as you are a certified and insured installer, you're a legit outfit, when you come into a town like ours and you install the fiber on the poles, you get to a pole where it's a mess. As long as you're not disconnecting any of the other people, all you have to do is call them up and say, hey, I'm installing fiber here. I'm at pole XYZ. Your stuff's in the wrong place. I'm going to move it around so I can put my fiber up. You've been notified. Have a nice day. In Connecticut, it doesn't work that way. In Connecticut, if you get to that pole and stuff's in the way or has to be moved around, you have to call all the people who are on the pole and say, come out and move your stuff. And of course, what happens is that, Frontier and Spectrum, whatever, they slow walk that process because they don't want any competition. And although they're supposed to respond to that request in 45 days, Frontier right now is taking over 14 months to respond to those requests. And, you try and call them up and there's literally nobody home. I mean, the irony of calling the phone company and having no one be home is another point unto itself, but I digress. Worse than that, they will come out one at a time and basically create 3 times the amount of work when the guys who were originally there to install your fiber could do everything in what they call one touch. So to make things worse, when Frontier or Spectrum come out to move their stuff, they get to charge the new guy for moving their stuff out of the way. So it creates, you can, not only does it delay the process by years in some cases, it adds like several $100s per pole in costs, literally for nothing. So we were trying to get this, correcting this was in the bill. And of course, the lobbyists, who swooped in and at the last second, who, stripped this out because they didn't want it. And, all I can say is that the Energy and Technology Committee is the most heavily lobbied committee in the Connecticut General Assembly. And that's all I can say. I mean, they probably got hit with a fire hose of political influence, and I was there with a squirt gun. So that's kind of where we are. So basically, I don't know what we're going to do. Northwest Connect has a board meeting this Thursday. We're going to regroup. We're going to figure out what we can do. I mean, there are things we can do at the local level in the meantime. A number of, about 8 or 10 towns now in our area have working committees to work on this. It would be nice if Washington could form a small working committee. There are local issues that can be addressed right now. One is that, we could consider doing a first level engineering study for the town. That would entail some expenditure, but we are getting ARPA money from the federal government, and ARPA money can be used for infrastructure and local infrastructure investments. So also, one of the things a local committee could do is to start doing hyper local mapping of the actual homes and businesses in the community in terms of their distance from the road. There are basically three elements to a fiber network, and one of them is already in place, which is what we call the backhaul. That's the feeder to the internet that's provided by CEN or Crown Castle or whatever. So that's basically the massive fiber lines that connect whomever to the internet. Those are already in place. The people who own them are more than willing to do business with anyone who wants to hook this up. The second component, of course, is the fiber on the streets, which is what I've been talking about for a while, which would be a municipal investment and would cost, a lot of money. But the third problem, which we haven't solved yet, is how do you get the individual homes to connect to the fiber once it's on the street? And that is actually a problem of there's a component of inequality there. So, if you have a home like me or Michelle and you're 100 feet from the road, connecting to the fiber is really no big deal. It's a simple install. They hang a wire from the pole to your house, like the phone company or the cable company or whatever. Installation's a couple $100, and they give you a new modem and a router, and you're going. But if you have a home that's far away from the road, which many people in Washington do, and say, you can't string a line and you have to underground it. And that's either if the property already has a conduit underground for the other utilities, maybe you can snake it through. Or if they don't, or if there's no room in it, then you'd have to micro trench it into the ground. And now you're talking thousands of dollars to connect that home. And, if the home happens to be owned by a hedge fund manager, well, what do we care? They can afford it. But if it's not, then you're telling those people that they're basically left out. And that's a problem that we're going to be working on next at Northwest Connect. And that's a problem that could be at least partially worked on by a local working committee. For one, we can at least, if nothing else, we can actually determine how many of those folks fall into that category where, they probably wouldn't sign up because they couldn't afford the install.
Right.
And that's kind of where we're at right now. I actually have an idea of how we might be able to provide some assistance for folks who would like to hook up to such a network, but couldn't swing it. But I don't want to get into that because it's just a half-baked idea at this point, maybe next month or so.
Great.
And I can answer any questions that people would have, but I've probably droned on for far too long already.
Well, I wanted to let everyone on the committee or remind them that getting this committee up and running is on our list of things as a committee to do. So hopefully we will get that underway shortly. And Wayne and I have spoken about this. And also just to remind everyone that fiber and broadband are considered some necessary infrastructure for, working from home, definitely. We saw that during the pandemic, but some of the more tech industry type things that people want to do from home, even some people working from home in trading and stuff are going to need some faster service than they're able to get at the moment. So this is really an infrastructure for economic development down the road. So we need to keep our eyes on this. And I think it's a shame that that's what happened with the legislation. And maybe if all of the town committees get together and, I don't know, help with the lobbying, write letters, we'll figure that out. We've got time, and we have Northwest Connect to help, but it's a problem for the whole state, really, or all of the small towns in the state? I know some of the larger cities have it coming.
Yeah, I mean, in urban areas, the problem isn't so much availability as it is affordability. Here, the problem is really availability. And our current providers, like Spectrum, for example, has just pretty much flat out said that they're not planning on any upgrades to their system. They're going to continue to use that 50-year-old coax cable that's on the poles right now. They have no intention of swapping it out for fiber. Frontier, who recently emerged from bankruptcy, has talked about, basically fiberizing their ancient copper landline phone system. And they're starting to do that, but they're only doing it in Hartford and New Haven and along the I-95 corridor of the Gold Coast, because that's where the people are. And they don't have, they don't have that much money because they just emerged from bankruptcy and no one will loan them any money. So we've had, Northwest Connect has had some, discussions with Frontier, and they have just flat out said that they have no interest in building out fiber in our corner of the state. They're not going to do it. I mean, and I know they're not going to do it because they said so to my face.
Right.
So there's no doubts there. And even if I could convince them otherwise, they have no money. I mean, it's like, the federal money that's going to come from whether ARPA or maybe the infrastructure bill that may happen this summer or not, any of those funding sources, a private provider like Spectrum or Optimum or Frontier or whomever, they're not going to be able to get that grant money without partnering with some public entity. And they're not going to be able to get that money without putting up some of their own money. It's like, in other words, they're not going to get a federal grant unless they have skin in the game. And like in terms of Frontier, they have no skin to put in the game. I mean, and even if they did, they wouldn't do it here. And which is why we need to do it ourselves. This is a situation where the private sector is never going to build this out here. There's just the return on investment is non-existent for them. We simply don't have enough people. And they look at the census data just like we do, and they know there aren't going to be enough people to make it worthwhile for them. I mean, you can't really blame them if you think about it. If Spectrum were to spend millions of dollars to to swap out what they have here for fiber, they would gain 0 new customers. Why would they do it? I mean, so this is a situation where if we're going to keep up with the rest of the world in terms of communications, we're on our own. We've got to do it ourselves.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you very much, Wayne, for the update. I know it's not what we were all hoping for, but that's where we are. So we'll just have to figure out how to move forward. So thank you very much for working so hard for that and for keeping us up to date. All right. Does anyone have questions for Wayne before we move on? No? All right. So we're going to move on to the next on the agenda is the updated town map for future use. And thank you so much to Zoltan for being here. Zoltan works with Julia at Sandor Mac. They're a team. We just don't see Zoltan nearly as much as Julia. So I appreciate him coming. He has worked on updating the map. We talked about this a couple times further back because we wanted a little more detail so that people could actually use it, especially to find some of our high interest places that are not in our town centers like Steep Rock or the Hollister House or things like that. So Zoltan, I just made you a co-host. Do you have them ready to share with us?
Yes, absolutely. Great. Okay, good. Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Okay, great. Oh, before I speak about the map, Julia apologized for not being able to be here, but she did want me to let you folks know that CT Visit has featured several items for Father's Day. I think we're within the first top 3 announcements for Father's Day. And, you know, she really should be making this announcement. I'm not familiar with it, but she was pretty proud of the fact that Washington's up there for CT Visit for this upcoming weekend. And also that we've sent in events for August Arts and Culture, and those will be featured as well. So I think we've got a good relationship with CT Visit, and they've been featuring us quite a bit, which is nice considering there's 168 other towns that they could be featuring. So anyway, she wanted me to let you folks know about that. So as far as the map goes, yes, we've made some, we've done a couple things. We've made some adjustments to the main directory map, and we also created 3 smaller village maps. Michelle had asked us to add in some details, a couple landmarks that were missing, and you know, we're certainly happy to add any additional landmarks that if anyone sees needs to be added, as well as some smaller streets, so that folks who are using the map are able to get to those landmarks and see what the sort of the secondary roads are to get to the map. So we've added things like, I guess, Christian Road and Nettleton Hollow Road, River Road. And I think there's a mistake there. I think we put Calhoun Road, but I believe it's Calhoun Street. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so.
I think at Calhoun, isn't Christian also street? I'll double check that, but.
Okay, so sorry for the typo, but we'll fix that after the meeting. So yeah, and then so we added some additional dining and shopping icons. We redrew some of the artwork for Hollister House, the Gun Memorial Library and Museum. We updated the town hall illustration and a couple other ones on here. We've also created, I'll jump over to the smaller maps so that folks can zoom in. The Washington Depot map. We added the small streets to for folks to get around it. Now we opted to not include businesses. Is that right, Michelle? I think that's the conversation you had with Julia.
Yeah, well, and that's something we can talk about here at the committee. We were going to try to not do too many specific businesses, just because as they come and go, then the map becomes outdated, but we wanted to indicate where there was shopping and dining. Right. So, you know, we can always revisit that, but that was, I think, the original intent, to just try to give a little more detail and show people, you know, give them some landmarks so they can orient themselves in case they're not getting service on their phone.
Right. So this was a first pass, and as I said, you know, we're happy to make any changes after the meeting. So I'll just go through the 3 small maps really quick, and then circle back to whichever map you'd like to further discuss. So this is the Washington Green map, and this is the New Preston map. So what we'll do is, as we use them, we'll put these maps either alongside the main map or on the back of the document. It really depends on where and how we'll use them. And of course, digitally, you know, we'll be able to put them anywhere. But that was the map project for now. So yeah. Please, I'm happy to listen to comments, and I'll write my notes and make changes as necessary.
Zoltan, if you could go back to the main directory one.
Sure.
And everyone, I will share these. I'll email them out to the whole committee so everyone can take a careful look. I want everyone to look and make sure we've got everything spelled right. We got the streets and the road thing sorted out. I asked Zoltan when I first glanced at it to move Steep Rock Preserve, the tunnel one, over to the other side of the river on River
this way.
Road. Yeah,
Oh, okay. So this has to move to the left?
Yeah, because the entrance is off of River Road. That is what anybody who's walking around the depot knows. Nobody can find Steep Rock.
Okay.
They're walking around trying to find it, and it's off of River. The other one was Hidden Valley.
Which is up here?
Yeah, its entrance is on 47.
Oh, so you'd like to see it over, maybe over here?
Yeah, maybe they're there. I know that might be a little challenge, or maybe we can move the street name over
Yeah, that's
onto the
fine.
other side, just to
Sure.
sneak it over there so that it's actually on the road where the entrance is. I've been
Got it.
talking with Steep Rock too. They're working on getting getting some signs made for their main parks, but they've been such a draw for our towns, particularly during
Right.
COVID time. So I want to make sure if people have the passport. So for those who aren't familiar, this map at the moment it's on our website on Explore, but it's also in the passport, the print directory that we have, guidebook. So I just wanted to make sure some of the landmarks that are out off the main roads, people can find them. Because
Okay.
as we all know, cell service is spotty once you get out there.
So this map, is this map just going on Explore as an updated version, or is there, did I miss something about it being somewhere else?
Well, no, it's gonna go on Explore, and then I wanted to have it in our pocket for when we're ready for the kiosk. And
Got
as
it.
you'll see on the agenda, I want to talk about the passport as well. And I'm so glad you're here, Lisa, because I have some questions about the
Okay.
passport. So it's just to update it so it's ready for us to use in whatever capacity we need it. You know, and as Zoltan said, the Depot, New Preston, and the Green are easy to just, you know, you could hover on and they could pop up online or something like that. How we use that in a print version, we would have to talk about, or if we do at all. You know, we've got shopping and dining sort of indicated in those areas. So we can determine that depending on the project we're using them for. Does anyone have questions? I'll make sure I share this too, so everyone can really carefully look at, you know, what's there and what's not and what we might be missing. But thank you, Zoltan.
Sure.
I think you did a really nice job. The style was what was originally, you know, what was created for Explore in the passport, and I think it's lovely. It's very aesthetically pleasing, but also useful. So it's nice. Does anyone have questions about the map? Other questions or comments? No. All right. I just wanted to quick say that the news you shared from Julia about the being in the top 3 for Father's Day on CT Visit is really huge news. And CT Visit is the statewide tourism website, and they put a lot of money into advertising to promote Connecticut to the larger outside of Connecticut as a place to come and visit. And
It might be the first and third, Michelle. I'm not sure if it's the top 3. She just quickly mentioned it, but she did
somewhere
say
in the
something
top
about
3. Well, the
3.
fact that little bitty Washington is there
Right.
at all is kudos to
Right.
you and Julia and your team at Explore, because you guys have figured out the system. You know what they like, what they're looking for. You choose your words carefully and your pictures, and it's not by accident that they're choosing the work to highlight Washington. So thank you for your work on that. It's very exciting.
Well, thank you.
We appreciate that. Which really leads to the next item. Are any last questions on the map? No? All right, the next thing I wanted to ask the committee about, as we're getting close to the end of the fiscal year, we end June 30th, and I was going through my budget and looking, and I have almost $3,000 left in the budget that is available if there's something that we wanted to work on. And what I had already started talking to Julia about, because it came out of an arts and culture council, putting together a postcard highlighting all that's happening in Washington for us this summer was something that we had talked about. So I had Julia put something together based on, oh shoot, the way I've set up my screen, I have to share and unshare. So for those of you who got the Explore digital newsletter last month, there was a say yes to the arts in Washington. And the words were chosen carefully because say yes to Connecticut is the campaign for the summer that CT Visit has chosen. So Julia very artfully grabbed that say yes, put a Washington spin on it, and created a really amazing story about all of the arts and things happening in Washington this summer. And that is one of the things that got picked up. It also got picked up with Discover Litchfield Hills. So it is out there in the electronic world. But the thought here was to create a postcard that we would, as a leave behind, either at the, at business place, all the businesses, at the library, town hall, any place that we can, or to possibly mail a postcard. So we can talk about that. And it's a two-sided postcard. This is the front side. And unfortunately, because I have it in 2 documents, I have to share and unshare. All right, so this is the back side. So yes to arts and culture this summer in Washington, and put together as like a list of things. You can hold on to this, mark your calendar, set it aside to make sure you're not missing any of the big events that we're aware of happening this summer. I have, well, and I also, part of what made me think of this is I saw New Milford had done something similar. Not just arts, but just a whole bunch of events, but it was a postcard. So that's what made me think of it. And I got some printing costs from the people who print our newsletter. And it's remarkable for a 6x8 postcard color, both sides. It is $380 to have 3,000 of them printed. So 3,000 is what we usually print to do a mailing. It costs us just over $500 to mail the newsletter to every household in Washington. I wasn't sure though, if this was something that we wanted to mail to our residents because they've probably heard about most of this, or if this is something that we wanted to print to have around town for visitors to pick up so that they would know what's going on, or both, I don't know. So this is where I would love some input from the committee about doing a summer mailing like this. Bless you, Dan.
I'm up for the both and.
Both?
Because, summer, there's a lot of in and out, but there's also a lot of folks who are here now.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, we have a lot of new people. We've been trying to get them signed up on the electronic communications that we have, but if we've missed anyone, maybe this postcard being in color too might grab their attention versus, the newsletter is very informative, but adding color to that is actually really expensive.
And you can put this on your fridge.
Yep. Okay.
If
All
one
right.
does that.
I was literally just going to say that. Yeah, Robin stole my thunder, but yeah, I mean, mail them out to everyone. If it, I say mail them and have them to hand out, on the counters at the businesses or whatever. it's an attractive card. I love the fact that it has the QR code on the back that people can scan. Sure, why not? Because if the printing cost is that low,
I know.
I mean, it's you know, I mean, it's not unusual for the postage to be more than the printing. That happens a lot, but you know, I think that that Robin is right. You know, I mean, a lot of folks in town will say, "Oh, that's nice," and they'll stick it on the fridge because it's nice looking, and then they'll go, "Hey, isn't that?" And then if they pull it off the fridge once to look at it because we wanted to remember some certain event, whatever, then we've won. So
Great. Thank you, Wayne. Yeah, I agree. I'll have to work on the layout to get the little postal patron insignia thing there, but I'm sure there's room for that. And when I was talking with Julia, we had spoken about that. Lisa, Fran, you guys have done leave behind postcards before to leave at the businesses. What do you have thoughts on how many do you think? I need 3,000 to do. It's like 2,900 and change for all the post office, for all the households and PO boxes. Any thoughts on how many to leave behind at the businesses?
I was just trying to think of what we've done before, and I can't seem to think of quantity wise. I know that we tried, like with the newsletters, we've done a couple hundred at a time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely would have a bigger distribution because not everybody could put a full newsletter on their counter.
Oh, that's a good point. Right. We could put these at the coffee house, you know, at 9 Main and
smaller
Marty's,
places,
like
yeah.
anywhere that people might stop in. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
There's a lot of potential, and farmers market, if you have it every Saturday and you have it there, that could go through. They could go through a lot.
yep, that's another good one.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't think 1,000 would be a lot. I don't know. They could go quickly. I mean, New Milford does this as well, and they do it. I know they do a ton, and they're all over the place.
They are. I know that was what had gotten me thinking about it. This is the one New Milford did. I picked it up and brought
I
it
like
back to
theirs.
the office. So,
That's good.
but theirs was blank on the backside.
Yeah.
So you think
Michelle?
maybe 1,000? Okay.
Michelle, is there a price break? I mean, if you get to
Yeah,
5,000,
that's
do
what
you
I was gonna
get
say,
a break on the printing at a certain
Good point, Wayne. That's
No,
a
it
good
was
one.
only $380. I mean, it's like
But
10
Usually-
cents a piece. I can't imagine there being much of a break, but I'll ask.
well, there's always a break point. I mean, but
Okay.
if I'm saying is if the break point's 5,000, the cost of 4,000 and the cost of 5,000 might be the same. So
Worth asking.
So it's worth asking.
Okay. I will do that.
I think as long as the effort is made to get them out there, that they'll go and they'll be very useful.
Okay. Yeah. I could see, well, first, certainly any place that's listed there, and at the Art Association, the market, yeah, all the businesses and the major nonprofits that are listed. Great. All
Is
right.
there any concern of missing anything? Like I can't really read this list right now, and I know that a lot of people do post on the calendar and whatnot, but I fear missing a big, like when you do something like this, obviously you're going to pick and choose major events. I get that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's going to be tough, and I just want to make sure that my thoughts are making sure that you have some sort of a, Joanne, or Suzanne, her big privet sale. I don't know. It's not, even those are small things, and they may not be something that you want to put on this, but you got to think of justifying the breaking point of where you're going to cut people, who gets on it, who didn't, you know what I'm saying? That's my fear with something like this. We always talked about it, and it's like, who do you put on and who do you not? So,
well, I would say at this point, and that's a great point, Lisa. And Julia and I did talk about that because she worked so hard. These events came from her newsletter, her June 1st newsletter, and we started working on that in May, early May, even April, because she knew she was going to want to do that, events for the summer. So as we were getting articles for the print newsletter and for the blog, we kind of reached out to all the knowns, the people that usually have events, tried to, track down Litchfield Jazz Fest. Is that happening? Talk to Washington Friends of Music. They don't have anything on the schedule yet. So we reached out to everyone that has ever done something in the past. And it came up, we just found out about the country night, July 24th. That one missed the June newsletter because that's a Parks and Rec event and they hadn't told us about it. So
that's what I was thinking, because that's exactly what happened to us too. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so everybody that is reported into the calendar, and we reached out to everyone to try to get them to do that for the newsletter article. So I feel pretty confident. And then we didn't really leave anything out, purposefully leave anything out. It is mostly arts and culture, so it's not like every little event. It's like kind of the big stuff, the big concerts and things. But yeah, that was, I think I would feel comfortable publishing this. And
we could also change.
Michelle, oh, sorry. I don't know.
I was just going to say, we can also change the verbiage on the bottom that would say for the latest events and things to do, or work on that verbiage to sort of cover ourselves in case any last.
Yeah, like I just noticed that you included music on the green, but there's also music in New Preston on Saturdays, I believe. And they both fall under the same, you know what I mean? Like that's the gray area that makes me nervous with this kind of stuff, honestly. So because 9 Main is doing the same thing on Saturday nights. So if you're including one, then you should include the other, but you might want to contact them. I just happened to see that on Facebook. It wasn't something that came upon, I don't even know if it's on our calendar.
I was just over talking with Joe. I asked him to put it on the calendar if it was going to be a regular thing.
Okay.
And I don't think he has yet, but I will reach out and make sure, because I know, and I think the Owl sometimes does music in New Preston, but not always. And I asked Joe to check in with the Owl so that they weren't competing with each other and both having music the same night. So, but I'll check in with 9 Main and the Owl, because I know that they've done it on occasion. And if it becomes a regular thing, or if they're planning on it, I will definitely add it to the list. And I'll get them to put it on the calendar. This is one of those times where I want people to get stuff on the calendar. That way everyone, it's to promote themselves, but also to make sure we don't have conflicts. So good point. Thank you, Lisa.
Sure.
Anyone else questions or comments on the postcard?
I think it looks pretty good. I mean, don't delay your deadline. I mean, it's, the expression, perfect is the enemy of good comes to mind here. I mean, you can drive yourself crazy on this, but as long as if you've got all the big ones, sometimes you just declare victory and hit print. So
thanks, Wayne. Well, I can't linger too long because I spoke with Linda today, and if I want to get it paid for in this fiscal year, I got to get it done in June. So we got to go. So the plan is to go be printing by next week. I just wanted to check in with you guys and see what.
And you've got that June 18th date on there also.
Yeah, I know. I saw that. We might pull that depending on how, because that's this Friday. That's this weekend. I don't think we're going to make that one. So we might pull that one. In which case it might change the order because it's semi-chronological, but we'll.
Does the Hollister House have specific hours that we need to add? I'm just looking now. Are they pretty much open 10 to 4 or something like that? Or
that's a good question, and we can check on that. I know they do have hours, and maybe we should just add them. There aren't really hours on any of these because the idea is to send people back to the website, right?
Okay.
For details.
Got
So,
Yes.
Okay,
I
okay.
I think less is more here. You
Right.
know, it's this is a bullet list, and if they want the info, they know where to go and get it.
Good
Yeah.
point. Yep.
Well,
yeah, good. Thank you.
is that what you mean?
All right. So I'm going to stop sharing that. This is a good segue then into my next question. I had a business ask me about the passport and whether we were going to do a reprint and an update and reprint. And I also wanted to so I want to talk about that. But I also, before we dive in too deeply into that, I just wanted to let everyone know, and Jim may or may not be here, he can speak to this at some point, but the American Rescue Plan Act, which the town received close to $1 million of money, is part of the point of that is to help businesses and anyone affected or to recover from the effects of the pandemic and COVID. So in my mind, a reprint of our guidebook could fall under that. So we might be able to use money for that, but there are lots of other things too that we should be thinking about. So I just wanted to plant that seed because I know
They go in the front door. Oh, in the hall? In that library, yeah.
Lisa.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. So anyway, I know the printing of the passport was a large job, but I want to get some facts about it, kind of figure out what if a reprint had been planned. I know, where are my things? I have the invoice from the original. It was printed at the end of 2019. And what I have here is that there were 6,000 total printed, that they're about $1 a piece. Once you add in all the handling, it was $7,493 to print the passport. So, and I will tell you also that I'm almost out of them. Businesses keep asking me to refresh and bring them up to them. The library asked me for some. They said people pick them up. So I am down to probably less than 100 here, but I don't know if Lisa or Fran, I don't know if the WBA has any set aside. And I don't know what the thoughts were, because this was a WBA EDC joint project. So I want to hear from you guys about what you were thinking. Fran?
Yeah, so I know that there are books at the supply. How many are left? I'm not sure. And we had a discussion in our meeting about reprints, but not specifics, because we know there are newer businesses here. So we hadn't really gotten into it, to be honest with you, about when, because we did have a lot left, but I'm not sure how many. I have to go back to Angel and see what she has there.
Okay. Well, we definitely want to distribute what we have. And now is the time, because summer's upon us and we are full. We all feel it when you're driving around, waiting to make a left turn in the depot. So the people are here. We should make sure that they are able to pick up the passport. So I will, yeah, I'll check in, because I've been distributing them. So I'm happy to check in with Angel and see if there are some more. And then I wanted to hear thoughts from the committee. We had Zoltan update the map. I know there are a few businesses in the passport that are out of business and some new ones that have come in. So we would need to do a little brief update. I think the layout's probably good. The pictures are like, I wouldn't really change it. Everyone loves it. Just swap out a few of the business changes, maybe put in the new map, and submit it. We'll have to ask Jim what the process is for deciding what's going to be funded out of the ARPA money. But based on what I've heard, I think doing this would qualify. Jim, are you with us? Or are you out with Kevin? Shoot. All right. I will check in with him. Any other thoughts or comments on the passport? Does everyone know what we're talking about, by the way? Let me just grab one.
Yeah, Michelle, since Jim's not here, I can give you a little bit of background on the ARPA funding. Generally, you're correct in your assessment of how it can be or not be used. The problem that the towns are having right now is that they haven't actually received the full-blown point-specific rundown of what the funds can and can't be used for. All they've received at this point are kind of like broad brushstroke kind of bullet point one pagers. You can use it for this or that or whatever. But, as you know, with any federal money, there's going to be a punch list that's pretty long.
Yeah.
And the towns don't have that punch list yet. And so most communities are actually when I don't know if we've actually received the first tranche of money yet. We're going to get it sometime this year. I mean,
I think it went to the states and they had 45 days or something to distribute the first hat. It's going to come
in 2 tranches, yes.
Yeah.
And so Washington is going to get roughly $1 million total, and maybe half now and half in another year. Or some people told me we might get a third now and 2/3. That's kind of up to the state to decide how they want to distribute it. But it goes to the states, and then the state distributes it to the towns. For now, the town has basically set up a separate fund to put the money in because we don't really know what to do with it yet. And until that instruction book comes along, I think of Washington and towns like us are just gonna basically just stick it in a bank account until we get the to-do list.
Right. Well, I know that Jim is creating a list of suggestions. People have come to him with ideas and suggestions, and he's asking for those suggestions with a cost estimate. So I wanted to check in with the committee and see what the thoughts were. My thinking is this would be applicable, but I don't know. I also really want the committee to think about, the intent, the broad language, as Wayne pointed out, of the rescue plan is to help anyone affected by the pandemic. And arts and culture are named out specifically, and businesses are just named in a broad, business. I see the guidebook as a promotion of our businesses. Definitely. I see it as a short term. It's a something you kind of pick up, but there might be other bigger picture things that we could be doing as well. I don't know what, but I want us to all be thinking about what we could be doing, especially the WBA and the businesses that are here. What could we be doing to help? And especially anybody who's struggling. I know a lot of businesses are not struggling right now because we're flush with people and they're buying stuff. So just to think about that, I wanted to plant that seed. As Wayne mentioned, broadband has been mentioned as something that's eligible.
Well, yeah, and other municipal infrastructure. And I know that economic development initiatives, I think, would be covered too. But until we see the full blown, you can use it for this, but not that. I mean, one of the things they have made clear is that a town can't use the money to lower its taxes or to pay for something that's already been budgeted. So, if, in other words, if you've got something in your economic development budget for next year and you say, oh, well, we'll use the ARPA money for that instead, you can't do that. So it's, so it has to be, that's kind of what, my little pet project, of course, is a phase 1 engineering study I purposely didn't submit the RFP to the selectmen because I didn't want us to even run the risk of budgeting for it because, maybe, maybe we can use ARPA money for it instead.
Right,
So,
right. No, that's good thinking. Well, I'm gonna let everyone know this was not budgeted for.
Right.
So there's that. I see Jim's back.
Yeah, not much to add to that, Michelle, other than, to your point, there's really nothing off the table in the 5 categories for Treasury guidance. Once you get into those categories, it really broadens out. To Wayne's point, there was a couple of very glaring no-nos. But beyond that, I wouldn't take anything off the table. Let's, get the requests in and sift through it. We've tried to cover a lot of our organizations that we couldn't budget for in this year's budget that we felt were deserving, but just, couldn't budget for. But broadband, Wayne's broadband is definitely under there. Infrastructure, businesses, all of those things, submit them and let us go through them and do due diligence.
Okay. So with that guidance, what I think I'll do, I'll find out how many we still have kicking around. I'll touch base with Angel and Val over at the supply, but I'll need to check in with Explore, Zoltan and Julia, about what it would be to first update. We'll have to kind of go through and make sure we identify the businesses that need updating. So we can get a cost for layout and printing. The printing was a while back. So maybe I can get an estimate together and we could submit that for the project list and just see what happens. But everybody think too, if there's something else that you think we could do that we haven't talked about yet, we can start getting some estimates together and put them on Jim's list of things to consider. It doesn't mean it'll necessarily get done. And we'll have to wait for more guidance from Treasury, but I want everyone to be thinking about it. Are there any other thoughts on that? All right, under old business, I had services directory because I just wanted everyone to know.
Sorry.
Yeah, Lisa?
Michelle, I'm sorry, couldn't get myself unmuted. Is there a description of that somewhere? So maybe if we talk about it at the WBA meeting, at our board meeting, we could describe what you're, if somebody has a thought, I don't know.
Describe, you mean the ARPA money?
Yeah, the ARPA money. Is there I know it's very vague, obviously, but is there somewhere that I could pull it up so I can at least let people know what it is? And
Lisa, I'll send you the link. It's about 155 pages of light reading, but
Jim, you can send me your summarized version.
Yeah, right.
How can you have 150 pages and it's not even specific?
I was just going to say that.
It's the federal government.
With no information. Perfect.
Yeah, it's the federal government. It's 155 pages of nothing.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that sounds about right. All right, great.
Oh, no. Okay.
Brought to you by the Department of Redundancy Department.
All right. Well, all right. Share the link with us, Jim, and we'll peruse, we'll skim it, and just see if other things come to mind. Yeah. Thank you, Lisa. All right. Old business. I just put services directory there, so to remind everyone, it is now live. We have gotten a couple of edits, people sending in updates saying that we have the wrong contact, and which is great. So that means people are looking at it. We did put a little notice in the selectmen's email saying, hey, there's a services directory, check it out. That was actually another thing that we had talked about promoting with some kind of mailer, postcard, leave behind. So we can think about that. The WBA had also talked about doing that. So we don't want that to fall off our sites, but just so everyone knows, it is live. The only other thing, we have any reports of the selectmen or WBA of things we did not talk about? Lisa, Fran, Jim, anything else you'd like to share with us?
No, I think you've covered everything as far as from the Board of Selectmen's perspective, what's going on, Michelle. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Jim. Fran?
Yeah,
It's not,
okay.
it's not really economic development, but just, it should be mentioned what a huge success the block party was. And
Oh, absolutely.
how happy people were to be out and about. And it was just a great event.
Thank you. I should have said something. It was fantastic. And huge kudos to the WBA for getting so many businesses involved. And I've just, people continue to talk about it. There were so many new families in town that came having no idea what to expect and were just thrilled. They just thought, oh my gosh, what is this place? Look at this. Like everyone's just out having fun. So thank you. And thanks for reminding me, Fran. Lisa, do you want to add something?
No, the only other thing I was going to add is that we are working on the lighting project for the trees going back to the holiday, towards the holidays, just trying to get that ready. So that's underway. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's big that's we're thinking about. Welcome bags are still coming, and I think that's it really right now. And Harvest Festival. We're thinking about the Harvest Festival after the block party was such a success.
I know, I had somebody reach out to me already
Yeah,
about
same.
it, and I sent him to
right
Liz.
away. Yeah, exactly.
So executive committee is still meeting. Are you guys planning to do a large something get together?
Some sort of a WBA social. We're not sure when though, because July and August just seem to be a little crazy for people, but we may try to squeeze one in.
Okay. Okay, so social to be determined. Good. Any news on how people are feeling? I know I've been in contact a lot in New Preston just because we've been talking about the road paving and the sidewalks, and they are gearing up for the people to come. It's been already popping on the weekends. Same here in the depot from what I've seen, but any thoughts? Are people feeling like it's busier than before, the same?
I think that other people I've talked to are comparing numbers going back to 2019, obviously. And yeah, as traffic flow and sales aren't necessarily up, but traffic flow might seem to be a little bit more, like number of people coming through or number of purchases. But yeah, not really in a sales comparison.
Interesting. Okay, so
yeah, but it's also, it's different. Things have changed, costs have changed, and everything's changed. So
it's true.
Yeah,
it's true. So profits are not necessarily higher, you mean? So there's a lot of people coming through, but because the cost of doing business.
Yep.
Okay.
Labor shortages, all that.
Yeah, that is another thing I've been hearing a lot about, labor shortages. People
major issue for a lot of people. Yep.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you. Profits not higher. Okay, taking notes. Any visitor things people want to share? Anyone else here?
I have a question for Jim. And Jim, in the Board of Selectmen's meeting last week, you mentioned that you had been approached by the Democratic Town Committee with the notion of perhaps reconsidering the Titus Park for not only a community center or a senior center, but also senior housing or housing of some type. And you were suggesting that maybe we should step back from the community center initiative and give it a little bit of thought to try to figure out, is there an opportunity to put both in? Can you just clarify, am I overreading what it is that that I heard?
No, you're not, Dan. And to be clear, the consensus of the board was with this request, and it wasn't just the DTC. We've heard it from some other residents. It came up in both of the public forums we had, but we felt with this on the table and this group making this request that we should at least do our due diligence and see what the viability is of adding a housing component. I think it's, you know, what we all recall is it's been there for some time in sort of the background. You know, we went to work after the forums and, you know, the overwhelming consensus was go with a community center, but they would like us to research the possibilities of adding a housing component, whether it's age restricted, affordable, whatever the case may be.
One of the more interesting things about the Democratic Town Committee is the presence of certain members of zoning on that committee, which is part of the reason why I was sort of more than a little curious about what they were thinking. And have you had an opportunity to talk to the Democratic Town Committee about this?
I spoke briefly, Dan, with Janet, and again, it's just, there's nothing, I don't think there's any pointed direction they're looking other than to look at those options.
Right.
When I say that other people had asked, and it's a legitimate concern, you know, Jay had brought up that, you know, this thing's been there for 20 years. And, you know, he felt we were a little bit pinched by the timing. And I won't say it doesn't present some challenges. Tony did all the legwork getting this thing off the ground.
Right.
We've progressed quite a ways in this. So it's going to take a little bit to get it sorted out, I'm afraid.
Is it your sense that you're going to maybe step back for a few steps in this process and therefore perhaps look at what might be?
I wouldn't say step back, Dan. And the reason I say that is I feel the concept we came up with for the community center is what I would like to see us go forward with. What I want to research is the viability of adding a component. I don't want to downsize what we initially came up with.
Right. Okay. You are aware that there is in the area surrounding us only one town that has both in the same location, and that's Morris. So, and it's very easy thing to look at from a point of view of a map. And obviously the Google overhead gives you a really good sense of how the pieces fit together, both of which are fairly substantial. Okay, you've answered my question. I have a second one, which is I was approached rather interestingly by everybody who's talking about the pollinator pathway. And I know very little about the pollinator pathway other than all of the signs that I've seen around on lawns saying no mow May. Okay. But the fundamental idea would be, do we want to, given all of the wonderful work that's been done for the Titus Park, would we be interested in trying to move that forward with support from the town? I have approached Wedc with the idea of maybe getting a little bit of leadership from them as to what might be done and what's possible. This obviously is going to come and go. You know, I can see this for 2 or 3 years. Okay. And then it's likely to be, you know, it'll sort of fade into the background. But in the interim, I thought it was rather interesting, and particularly if we were able to position it or consider positioning it almost as a park, a pollinator pathway and park or something of that nature. Would you be interested in chatting about that?
Absolutely, Dan. As a matter of fact, at the selectmen's meeting last week, we passed that resolution in
You
support.
did. I'm sorry, I must have missed that.
Yeah, in support of the pollinator pathway.
I would
Okay.
just also add that in the current community center plans, the compensatory water storage meadows were planned to be planted as pollinator gardens. So, so it is part of the plan for the community center. But I think you're probably talking about the interim.
Yeah, and Michelle, I think that was the source of their thinking or the idea. Okay. And it's kind of intriguing. And one of the things that is very clear is that we've got a park there, which the town was largely responsible for creating. Okay. Obviously with help from Peter, but to now continue that, you know, sort of to refresh it and keep it. I thought this was an interesting approach when it was brought to my attention. So I'll pass that along. Thank you.
No, thanks, Dan. And I think that's a great idea. If Wedc wanted to take point on that, they definitely would have the support of the town.
Yeah. Okay. Great. I'll let them know.
Jim, I would also add, in my former lifetime as chair of the Housing Commission, we spent quite a bit of time examining the Titus Road property for housing. We even had perks and deeps done there at one point, which I think you of course would not be surprised to find out that not only are the soils very good there, they're actually too good.
I just reread your letter the other day, Wayne.
Yeah, and I mean, any septic system you put in there is going to have to be engineered basically to slow things down. It's but anyway, I won't take up this meeting. If you want to talk to me about some of the findings that we, I mean, we examined that property extensively for housing use, and rather than have everybody reinvent the wheel here, I could provide you a lot of information that might just kind of speed up the process.
That'd be a huge help, Wayne. Maybe we can get together next week, and
No
that would
problem.
be huge. Thank you.
All right, excellent. I love it when connections come together. We can help each other. Any other questions or comments? All right.
If we were to do just one thought that you generated, if we proceed with some kind of redevelopment, pardon the choice of words, but it characterizes the issue, the redevelopment of what I would call sort of the area, the business area surrounded by Titus Road. How long would that likely take? I mean, is this an extended process? Are we talking about several years, or are we talking about 10 years?
Are you talking about the concept plan for the Titus block, the sidewalks?
Well, that certainly is part of it. And then getting it done. I don't just mean the plan, but actually getting it, so to speak, done. Somebody asked me the question.
My sense, Dan, is part of the rationale for having the engineers do what they're doing is to expedite getting this thing out as part of a grant package, which would cover the vast lion's share of the cost. And then, of course, we would have to budget for the rest.
Okay.
So I would expect a fairly quick turnaround. I wouldn't see this 4 or 5 years out, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we had talked about potentially phasing it. We'll see what kind of grants we can get, and then we'll kind of piece away at it after that. But
Right.
the hope was to have some funding in place within a year or two.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Sure. All right. Any others? All right. Thank you all so much. That was really productive. We covered quite a few items. If there's nothing else, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, Jim, Wayne, we are now officially adjourned. Thank you all for
everybody.
attending. I appreciate it. Enjoy this afternoon.